Warning, if you're an anime-only viewer of Gachakuta, there are going to be spoilers in this video. You've been warned, so watch at your own discretion.
If you watched the latest episode of Gachakuta, you probably saw this calm, creepy guy named Zodio Tiffin, the person who kidnapped Rudo and the cleaners. But what if I told you this dude was raised in a cult that worshipped trash falling from the sky? And that same trash is the reason he became one of the most dangerous people alive in the pits. Today we're diving into who Zodio is, his origins, powers, and philosophy, and what to expect from him as Gachakuta's main villain going forward. If you stuck to the intro, what's good fam? It's your boy Toby Cats here. Don't forget to subscribe and like. With that out of the way, let's get into this very exciting video about Zodio. Not much is known about Zodio and his past. We do have some few details though, as early on in his life, courtesy of his parents, he was part of a cult of people that worshipped the trash that fell from the sky. The members of this cult that Zodio's parents were part of believed anything that fell from the sky, whether it be rotten food or broken down lumber, was a divine blessing from the sphere. We do know that sometime while Zodio's parents were in the cult, they participated in a mass sacrifice. The members of the cult prayed and stood in place as enormous amounts of trash fell on them and killed all of them. This was an extremely traumatic event in Zodio's life, as we saw him crying and screaming to his mother that this was wrong and the trash falling from the sphere was not a blessing. Zodio's mom refused to listen to him and she held on to him and forced him to participate in this mass sacrifice. It's assumed that during this event all of Zodio's family was killed, as we saw him begging his mom for his sister to be let go, but that didn't happen. Miraculously, Zodio managed to survive this mass sacrifice. It would be this event that would be the trigger for the deep hatred he has for the sphere that we would later go on to see him display when he meets Rudo in the present day storyline. Sometime in the future, Zodio managed to find a part of the Watchman series, that being the code's Mishra. With the powers granted by the codes, he was able to take over the Raiders and become the new leader. Under his leadership and guidance, the Raiders transformed from just a band of thieves to a group that solely focused on getting information about the sphere that they could use to destroy it. All of that concludes Zodio's origins for the most part. Zodio has a very similar origin to characters like Shigaraki and Dabi, characters with a very tragic upbringing that will be the catalyst for them to walk down that dark path that will eventually lead them to being the villain that we see in the present day storyline. Although I still feel there's a lot of missing context regarding Zodio that we haven't seen in the story, like where exactly he got his information and knowledge about the Watchmen series to begin with. Zodio was the very first person in the story to mention the Watchmen series, and he even tried making his own part of the Watchmen series. His ended up proving ineffective though, and he just used it to power up the trash beast that we saw Ryo take out earlier in the story. Someone being knowledgeable about the Watchmen series is very noteworthy because in Gachakuta, information on the ground is extremely important and hard to source. Zodio having that sort of info begs the question, bruh, just how exactly did he get that? There's definitely more context to him that will be revealed to us as the story progresses, but for now, that's about everything. Now, I know a big draw for most of y'all and your favorite villains is the personality and just how charismatic they are and how they just act towards people. And for Zodio, a big draw for him is obviously his personality. I mean, that's what I love the most about him, if I'm being real with you. He has what I would like to call a smoldering personality. What type of personality is this, you might ask? Well, it means that Zodyl is someone who appears calm, composed, and controlled on the surface. But underneath, there's a constant burning emotional fire fueled by emotions that never allows that flame to burn out. In Zodio's case, the fuel for his fire is his deep-rooted hatred for the sphere. Now, this does not mean that Zodio is putting on a facade for the outside world and trying to hide his true nature. Both aspects, the outward stoic nature and the inward volatile nature, are who he is at all times. Think of someone like Captain Levi, he also has a smoldering personality. He keeps a very calm and flat personality for 99% of the time. Deep down though, every loss he's endured, every comrade he's seen died, and every ounce of pain that he's swallowed has been compacted down to unrelenting flames inside him that never burn out. The thing about characters with this type of personality is you're honestly excited to see what they do next for the most part, cause the possibility that they snap for that brief second or interaction and they go full on guns blazing with their rage is always very entertaining to see. Think of instances like Sasuke unleashing his rage against Itachi, or Kurapika spazzing out against the Phantom Troop, and most famously, Levi dicing up Zeke. This is the 1% of the time where guys with a smoldering personality give into that unrelenting rage that's inside them and tap into that volatile side that they're capable of. Zodio doesn't quite have that moment yet in the series. Probably the closest thing to that 1% we've seen him reach is when he lashed out at Rudo, but that moment when he really spices out, I'm looking forward to it because I know it's gonna be amazing. With this, I've explained to you that Zodio basically has two personalities. So how exactly does this tie into his defining philosophy as a villain? You know, basically his ideology. Kind of like how Madara wants to force peace onto the world through the infinite Tsukiyomi because he believes the world is inherently caused by violence and destruction. Or how Akainu believes that peace can only exist through the destruction of all pirates and criminals. For Zodio, according to his own words, he believes in removing waste. If you have a goal you want to accomplish, if you have any convictions, then the trash must be disposed of. Now, when he says this, the waste and trash he's referring to isn't literal garbage. It's everything he sees as excess in the human condition. Things like emotion, sentiment, attachment, and hesitation. To Zodio, those are the true forms of waste, the unnecessary waste that prevents people from acting with complete purpose. He views compassion, friendship, and even dreams as distractions that muddy conviction. From all this, it makes sense why Zodio has that calm, stoic personality. Someone that believes in ruthless efficiency in all aspects of life almost has to be stoic by default. Pair that with him being really intelligent for the most part, and you get a villain that is very effective in getting done what he sets out to do. If I'm being real to you, it kind of reminds me of Aizen from Bleach. Like, they're very effective and they get what they set out to do done. This ruthless efficiency helps establish a sense of threat for Zodio that is very heightened in the story of Gachiakuta. Although, surprisingly, I like to point out that compared to other villains in Gachiakuta like Tamsi and Maimu, Zodyl is actually the least threatening out of all of them. Tamsi has the edge on him because there's so much unknown around him, and naturally the unknown just presents so much fear. As for Maimu, well, he
became a fucking god that just seeks the complete control and domination of everyone in the spirit.
Yeah, right now Zodio can't compete against those two. Instead, what I would say is that Zodio has a much better relationship with Rudo than Tamsi and Maimu. My reasoning for this is because Zodio and Rudo have similar goals. Kind of like how Blackbeard and Luffy have the same goal of trying to find the One Piece. Rudo and Zodio are both trying to find a way to get to the sphere. You pair this with the fact that their ideology is fundamentally different. Rudo being someone that always finds worth and value in anything, while Zodyl is someone that tries to eliminate all waste and trash in anything. And you get this very fascinating dynamic between two characters that want to achieve the same thing, but the approach to reach this goal is about as opposite as it could get. As a matter of fact, if you've watched Gachiakuta, you're probably aware that Rudo's gloves grant him the ability to bring the full worth and potential of a broken object and turn it into a vital instrument. As of right now, the actual powers of Mishra, Zodio's Jinki, hasn't been revealed yet. For my manga readers, you're probably like, what do you mean? Doesn't Zodio take the abilities and characteristics of whatever he eats? Well, that might seem like it, but if you actually follow Urana Sensei on Twitter, she actually tweeted out that Zodio's abilities don't work like that. So basically, we actually don't know how Zodio's abilities work, and it's up for speculation. This made me do a little bit of research, and I came across a theory on Reddit by a user named on4person4. He believes that Mishra allows Zodio to draw in thoughts from external sources. Basically, whatever he consumes, he siphons the thoughts of those beings to fuel himself. With this external thought, he then uses it to manipulate and shape Mishra into any form he so desires. I really love this story as again it highlights the dichotomy of Rudo and Zodio, even down to the abilities. One brings out the full potential of something and transforms it into its best form, while the other consumes the full potential of something and uses it to enhance his abilities. My hope is that just like how Shigaraki got his own spotlight with the My Villain Academia arc, and how Sasuke got his own spotlight and we got to see his story from his perspective, I really wish and hope we get the same thing for Zodio, because this will help elevate him in so many ways. We'll obviously get more character depth with him if this happens, which is always a positive for the most part. We could also be privy to just how exactly powerful he is, which will make him more menacing and increase the sense of threats for him as a villain. And lastly, just learning more about him would strengthen the relationship he has with Rudo. Look, everything is still in the pot right now and it's still cooking, and most of what I just said is the potential of what Zodio could be. But honestly, I'm more interested in him compared to a villain like Tamsi. There's amazing and great things about Tamsi for sure, but I don't know, something just feels missing from me when it comes to Tamsi. I personally think a lot of what makes him appealing to so many people that have read Gachakuta and seen the things he's done in the story is the shock value. The shock of him being the one that killed Recto. The shock of him being the one that kidnapped Ambu. Aside from that though, there really isn't a whole lot about Tamsi. Zodyl and even Maimo for me just seem like way more interesting characters than villains. As a matter of fact, I have a breakdown for Maimo as a villain, so you definitely want to check that out once you're done with this video. But Zodyl just seems more interesting and his motives and role in the story is just more appealing to me. Like this was someone that was able to make a madman like Jabba work for him. He's able to get powerful people like Bandus and Norde to gravitate towards him and help him achieve his goals. He's so confident in his abilities that he allowed the cleaners to keep Amu's boots, another part of the Watchman series, with them, and he just simply stated that I'll steal it back when it's the right time. He was the first person to speculate that the chokers were made by someone that has a piece of the Watchman series, which ended up later being true in the Door Festival arc. Side note for the manga readers, some of y'all might not remember, but Zodio actually sent Bandus to track down Gauntis, and with Maimo being preoccupied with the cleaners right now, I would not be surprised if Bandus just snuck in and stole connect from Gauntis. So yeah, Yama have forgotten about that, but I think it's a real possibility. And lastly, when it comes to Zodio, he was able to steal a decent amount of information from the information broker, courtesy of Momoa obviously, which, mark my words, would definitely end up playing a huge role and a major factor in him getting closer to being able to destroy the sphere. Because y'all gotta think about it, he actually stole a decent chunk of information. Think of someone like Rudo. Kuro just answered 2 of his questions. Zodio actually stole a decent chunk of his memories. So yeah, Zodio has access to one of the most important commodities you can have in Gachakuta. Circling back to the title of this video, what to expect from Zodio. I think the sky is the limit. I think he has the potential to be a very, very special villain and be one of the best new gen villains. I see the vision. Is this vision going to be fulfilled? I don't know, but I put my money on it. But those are just my thoughts. If you watch the anime of Gachakuta, what are your initial impressions on Zodio? And if you read the manga of Gachakuta, how would you compare him to the likes of Tamsi and Maimo? Be sure to put your opinions down in the comment section, as I'd love to read them. With all that being said, that's all for me. Peace, boys. Love y'all. Love y'all.